There you go. Well, excited to have everybody on. We're going to kick this thing off. If you have people on your team that didn't register, they're not here right now, you may want to shoot them a text. You may want to say, what the heck are you doing right now? This is definitely the place to be. I would say in all of symmetry right now. I don't know of any other webinar for our company going on right now that could be more impactful for agents than this right now. And I'm so pleased. Before I introduce the man that all of you are really here to see, I'm so happy to be able to be joined by business partners, friends, compatriots, battle buddies. I mean, like there's so many words that I could tie to that. But Brad Smith, Griff Martin, and the Mr. Brian Delaney, the things that we have all seen over the last, I mean, with those four guys right there, or those three guys right there, I'm looking at all four of us right there here at the top, but those three, I mean, to think that it's been, guys, I mean, 12, 13, and going on 14 years of having the opportunity to build at this company that was put together by the gentleman that we're all getting to hear from. I mean, it's crazy to think of how fast that time goes, but how much can be done, right? We always talk about how most people underestimate what they can do in a year. And they definitely underestimate, because I don't think any of us, like we're all in some very different places than we were 12, 13, 14 years ago. You could have asked us, every single one of us, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, you could have asked us, do you think it's going to look like this in a decade? And we were like, it's going to look good, but it ain't going to look like this. So excited to be joined by each of you, and to see all the agency owners that we have joining us on screen. If you're an attendee and you're like, where's my video screen? I don't see my video. Become an AO, then you get to see yourself. You know, I mean, just a small perk of being an AO, right? So appreciate all of you, AO and above. Let me say that, not just agency, AOs and above that we see. So appreciate all our leaders for sharing this, encouraging our team. I know we all have different things that are going on as large as our overall organization has grown. And so it's good to be able to come together from time to time. We haven't been able to do it that often. We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work to improve that. But it's good to see all of us here together. And I'm gonna let I don't know, Griff, if you want to kick us off, but we all know you guys saw the invite that came out. We have Mr. Brian Pope talking to us about, and here's the cool thing, the strategies and techniques that he's talking about. Like when we were thinking about like, what is that going to do for people on this call, whether you're a builder right now, whether you're a producer, whether you're doing both, whether you're just getting started or you've been here for over a decade, like what he's going to talk about. And we were talking about it a little bit right before this. Like that's the cool thing about being an AO. You kind of get to join before the call gets started and get, you know, Brian Pope raw, right? Like not that you're not gonna be raw right now, but like you get like the real stuff. No, I'm kidding. But what we're gonna talk about here, what you're gonna hear from him, like if you put this stuff into place, if you do these things, adding 100,000 to your business over the next 4 months, it's not just gonna be like maybe that might happen. Like I would say, Brian, like you can definitely do, like we're going to hear a couple stories and examples of that. Like you can definitely do that with what we have. But I want to let
hey, Edward, real quick,
yeah.
before, because I know Griff was going to say something. I want to tell a cool story about Griff, right?
All right.
A proud moment when I saw him do this, right? Because sometimes you got to dig deep. And courage is a funny thing. So we were on a ski trip. A bunch of us were on a ski trip, and this wasn't a ski resort. This was the back in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. Gnarly terrain, and we got to the end of the day and we were standing on top of the last run, and they saved the gnarliest run of the day for the last run of the day. And Griff says, "Hey, Pope," he looks at me, he says, "Hey," and he says, "This is way over my head." And I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, I can't do this. There's no way I'm going down that. And the way we did everything, because of avalanche and all that, it was one person at a time, right? So I said to the guide, I said, remember his name was Happy. And I said, "Hey, Happy, Griff's going first." And Griff was like, "No way. I don't want to do it at all." I said, "Griff's going first." Griff went, he nailed it. Best run he had of the whole trip. You get to the bottom, and I said, "What'd you think of that?" He goes, "That might be the coolest thing I've ever done in my life." You remember
It's
that,
true,
Griff?
man. Oh, I absolutely remember that. And that was what made it challenging. It was at the end of the day, right? It was at the end of the day, and there was a lot of trees, right? And we were sinking. I mean, you could sink down 5 feet in that snow, and I was trying to stay on top. My legs were done, right? And it's just like, but I knew that
And it
if
was
I
a
just,
cliff. And it was a cliff.
and what was, it was
It was
actually
a
cool.
cliff.
It was a cliff. I have a video of it, right? I had somebody take a video, and I remember it was actually a little bit easier because I went first. It was all groomed. It was groomed. It was like perfect. If you're like having to ski in somebody else's tracks, I mean, that's what we paid for, right? So you can go on completely groomed, just fresh, zero cut snow. Like it was the most amazing experience, the most amazing trip I've had in maybe my life, right? It was a lot of fun. But going first, it was already groomed. I was able to go out and cut my own tracks, and that's what we had to do. I remember you said something a long time, Pope. You said some people here they make the wave, some people ride. Some people ride the wave, some people make the wave. And for a little while, I'll just admit it, I rode the wave, right? But not over the last few years. It's been different for me. And that's a lot of what you said. It rings in my head on a regular basis. And I got to say, man, to be on this call with you and all these guys and everybody who's earned the right as an AO to be on this call, but also everybody who's looking to start a business in this company, it just means the world to me, man. Like going out to your house and staying with you, and Delaney was out there, and Ayers, a bunch of us were out there hanging out. You put us up in your house. I think we drank a lot of your liquor. I mean, you didn't care, right? We had a good time, and I just realized like how humble you are, and how knowledgeable you are, and just how caring you are about the people in this company and the people in our lives. And it was such a great trip. But yeah, I remember that. I didn't want to go because I was worn out. I was tired, and we had gone up that snowcat. I think we'd gone down. I don't even know how many runs it was, but some of these runs were like, I mean, there was only like a handful of runs in a day because the slopes are so, I mean, you're skiing down an entire mountain. You know, it was a lot of fun, man. I'm stoked about being on this call with everybody. We've got a big national conference. I was thinking about it the other day, and it's like it feels like the end of a week. You know, it's like you're into the week, you're into the month, you're pushing to get your promotions done because we got our Super Bowl is coming up in just a couple months, right? Like a month, like literally a month right now from today, and less than a month, as a matter of fact. Now is the time that we're able to do everything we possibly can to get it done. We have a new agent who just brought on board. He started, and this is a reminder of how incredible this thing really can be. Okay, I'm going to give you some numbers real quick. And first of all, he started on June the 21st. Okay, this guy played professional basketball with Montreal. Started on June the 21st when he got contracted with Symmetry. Zero insurance experience in the past. June 21st. July, I wrote $50,000 in premium. All right. His daughter, by the way, who is going to be 2 years old in about a month, actually just turned 2 years old, just had a heart transplant in April. 2 years old. My daughter's 2 years old. It gets under my skin when I hear that, right? Like how tough that would be. This month, in August, he just broke. The numbers should be out here soon. He just broke the Symmetry record. He's written $138,000 in premium this month by himself with 108 applications capped. He's on track to making $60,000 this month by himself. Now he's working hard. He's buying a whole lot of leads. When we think about comparing, I love talking to other insurance agents because I know we have, right? But when you think about just what's available for us, and I'm sitting there staring at these numbers and off right now, I'm like, this thing, he started at 80% commission, right? Making $60,000 his second month with us. Like this thing is incredible. And I think I'm refreshed to know that he's on the team, obviously like that part of it, but to know what's here to be a reminder of that. So Pope, thank you, man. I appreciate everything you've done and the trail you're blazing for us, man. My family is forever changed because you partnered up with Brandon and Casey and built what we have today.
Yeah, I'll second that. I'm going to go next because I don't like talking after Brian Delaney. But man, it's so great to hear about these new pace setters. They the breaking the 4-minute mile record, and hearing about that kind of stuff just inspires all of us. So it's awesome to hear that. But I can't tell you guys how grateful I am to be where I'm at right now, and for this call. I think it's a long time coming. I love that we're getting the Pritchett Agency together as an entire agency. We're on a mission, and I'm just grateful that we have founders like Brian Pope who are willing to get on calls like these and pour into us. Brian, I've told you this before, but you are the reason that I planted my flag here. I thought I had already been committed to Symmetry before my first conference, but I came to my first one and I heard you talk and I heard about your background, your experience, the wealth that you've created in this industry doing exactly what we've done. And I had been looking for this my whole life. I had been motivated. I had been excited about building something for myself. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't have anyone to learn from. And I didn't know how to even access somebody that had your kind of expertise and success. And I thought, man, here's a company that you got Brian Pope at the front who has this experience teaching and I get to just get in line and follow Edward Pritchett and Brian Delaney, who I know is following you. And it just gave me such confidence, number one, in this company and in the leadership, but more than anything in this industry. I didn't know what could be created in this industry until I saw your example. And I was like, what? You can become worth hundreds of millions of dollars in this industry, and I actually have an opportunity to learn from somebody. So I hope everybody realizes what opportunity you have in the next 45 minutes. And I hope you have your pens and paper out, because everything you say, Brian, I write it down, I take notes. And a lot of times it's like the simplicity of what you say is something that I tend to overcomplicate things. And I've noticed that the people who don't have the results I'm looking for tend to do that. And the ones who have extraordinary results tend to break things down into such simplistic ways that almost seems like, how could it possibly be that simple? And that's why it works. So I'm just super excited. I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian.
Yeah, I want to echo what's been said. Brian Delaney, direct to Edward Pritchett, and just incredibly grateful. You say I in the chat if you're grateful somebody shared this opportunity with you, and you get to be on a call like this with one of the founders of the company. And just think that we may not share the opportunity with people. I can type I in there 5 times. Because Edward shared this opportunity no less than 5 times with me, because I was stubborn, right? I wasn't done. I wasn't done yet. I wasn't done where I was. But when I came here, I remember the first time meeting you, Brian. I was in we were at the Marriott at the Atlanta airport, and I went and I got into an elevator, and I just turned around immediately because I had a surgical procedure done, but my chin used to be glued to my chest, so I couldn't actually see up because my self-esteem was so low that I couldn't look up, right? I couldn't have my shoulders back. And then all of a sudden I look up and I see you in there, and I was hoping it was one of those elevators that had a front door and a back door, just so I could get the hell out of there. I was like, what am I doing in here? How did I end up here? I was trying to be invisible within the company because that's how I was taught to be. But I get to be with a company where instead of being invisible, I get an opportunity to be successful. I get an opportunity to be seen, heard, motivated, inspired. And you guys gave that opportunity to Edward Pritchett so he could give that opportunity to me. And that makes the biggest deal. And the fact that the way you set this company up, it's all about the DNA of the company and those early conversations that you had with Brandon and Casey that set them up so that when I came in, I could see them as number 1 and number 2 on the leaderboard, building this company with a consistency on their own pen, because you didn't give it to them. You gave them an opportunity to earn the partnership. And that means a world. And just over the years, growing the relationship with both you and Jerry, and Tori and I, and we're definitely appreciative to have you in our lives, and grateful for the work that you've done. Grateful that you didn't let yourself off the hook in ways that reduced the quality of this opportunity for us. And so, incredibly grateful. Look forward to hearing from you, and look forward to learning and growing with everybody who's on here tonight.
Definitely. And I mean, we could all spend like people may be like, well, are they gonna let Brian Pope talk to us and tell us all these great things that are gonna allow us to grow? Here's the thing. I mean, when you get an opportunity, right, to give gratitude to someone while they're above ground, while you're above ground, and when they've done so much to change your life, like I know these other three gentlemen with me, like we know, and many of you who are I'm looking at your faces right now, you know what a life-changing opportunity this is. And the kind of gratitude that we couldn't spend enough time expressing it, right? So we want to take some time to give just a little bit of gratitude. And that's so important as we grow this business, as we grow the culture that Brian, Brandon, and Casey have put together here. I want to run through a couple of numbers because some people don't really know, like you've heard of Brian Pope, but you don't really know the background. So like we can go back to 1990, and correct me if I'm too far off wrong. Like I know that some of this is like, it's the legendary type stuff, right? That we kind of inherit over time. But 1990, Brian Pope gets started in the industry that we're all in. And I couldn't cover everything that he did during that particular period of time, but what came out of what he did was a company called Insurance Wholesalers. And Brian, you sold Insurance Wholesalers in and around 2005. So let's call that 15 years, a 15-year span to build a company that was doing well over $250 million a year in premium. Okay. Like that's huge in the insurance industry, especially if you're talking like this is 1990. We're not talking about like the 2020s when we're doing over $1 trillion in premium as a life insurance sector on a regular basis. Okay. So $250 million in 15 years. You kind of consulted with them, you took a little bit of a break, probably did some skiing, played some guitar, and then you kind of ran into these guys, Brandon Ellison and Casey Watkins, circa 2008, 2009, and a plan was developed. And a company came out of that in October of 2009 called Symmetry Financial Group. Fast forward to 2014. How many years is that, Brad? 2009 to 2014. Is that 15 years again? 15 years again. And now you have an organization, Quility Insurance Holdings, with everything that makes it up, but Symmetry Financial Group and the other aspects of what make up all of the insurance premium that Symmetry does. And now we're over $350 million a year in premium that's being generated. And, you know, like the first time you did it, 15 years, 250. Now it's 350. And this time you're like, I'm not selling this time. Let's see where this thing goes. and you're like at the head of this company that previously, like you could just let me go get a check somewhere, right? But you said, you know what? Now I want to step back in, as you were telling some of us earlier. I want to be out there letting people know what's actually possible. I'm not just sitting at my house counting my dollar bills, stacking my gold bars, a la Scrooge McDuck. You know, like I'm not doing that stuff. I'm spending my Thursday evening on a call with over 500 agents that are just one part of my organization. It'd be one thing if this was all of Symmetry, because he said, like, for this group, for this organization, I want to get out here. I want to talk about how we can do the simplest things, such as how can we just go out and write $5,000 a week in production? If you can write five, like we were talking about this before we started the webinar, if you can go out and help an agent write $5,000 a week in production, they're not going anywhere, right? And they're going to turn into somebody that can do a whole bunch more than $5,000 a week in production. I did the math on this when we crossed the 500 participants mark. Delaney, if we had 500 people on this call that were doing or causing $5,000 a week in premium to flow into Symmetry Financial Group, this would be a $2.5 million a week organization. That's $10 million a month. That's $120 million a year. And the man that knows exactly, like he's already done this, not once, not once, but twice, and not just 120 million, we're talking about 2 times over, going on 3 times over, and he's done that twice. So this is who we're getting an opportunity to hear from. As was already said, I hope you have your notes. I hope you have your pen and paper ready to go, but more so, what you hear, go and do. Don't be like, if you're not gonna do any of the stuff that you're hearing on this call from this man tonight, you can go ahead and get out. Let go. McDonald's is still open. They're open till 11. I think Shoney's, if they still existed, they're open till 10. Like, you can go get a good meal. You can watch a Netflix special and get to bed. All right. But like, if you want to have something different actually happen in your life, be able to not just want to give gratitude and have the opportunity, but like be compelled to give gratitude because of how much your life has changed. Like, no matter, like, you have to do it because that's what change has happened. So Brian, I'm gonna hush up and turn it over to you to kind of just lay out. It's what you've been talking to me about, what you were talking with us about before this, and you've been sharing this for years, but how we can take what we have in front of us right now as we go into these last 4 months of the year. We're not even talking about, we got September, October, November, December, right? It's August 22nd. So we can prepare, get ready, and then go. So what can we be doing now? All of us, like, what should we be preparing for? What can we get ready and go and start taking action on?
Well, let me first start by thanking you guys for having me on because I really appreciate it. And I don't think there's a more important thing I could do with my time than to spend it doing these kinds of calls. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to pouring in. And all the nice things you guys said about me, I appreciate it. But can I ask you a favor? Call my wife and tell her all that because she needs to hear that. Let me first start out by saying a couple things because I want everybody to understand, like, I wasn't born, into the insurance business. There isn't anything anybody on this call is going to do that I haven't done 10,000 times or more, right? So, that's the first thing. The other one was I was on a call last week and everybody went around. It was all brand new people too. Like, they were brand new to the business. And it was take 10 seconds and say your name and why you're here. Like, what's your why? Well, I can tell you what mine was because I thought, well, everybody else heard what theirs was. So I can tell you what mine was. I was in the Army. And this wasn't the greatest job. I was providing security to the CIA and the Army Corps of Engineers in Central America, godforsaken jungle. And I remember sitting there and I said to myself, man, when I get out of the Army, I'm getting an office job, man. I want air conditioning. I was down there, mosquitoes, size of tennis balls. And I'm like, I want an office job. I want to work in an air conditioning. I do not want to work outside. I've had enough of this crap. And I'm serious. So when I got out, I wanted to get in sales. I kind of figured I didn't have a college degree, Army experience. That was it. And I just kind of lucked into insurance, and I went to work, right? And the one thing I want to get across tonight is that nothing, I don't care your background, your age, I actually started in 88, okay, which is scary because there's a lot of people on here probably weren't born in 88. That believe me, when you start to get to my age, you start thinking in those terms. But there, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. It's not easy, because it's challenging to, constantly be meeting new people. If you're an extrovert, maybe it's a little easier. I'm not. I'm actually quite an introvert, and you just got to be yourself, right? And put the work in. And the thing is, it's not overwhelming. It's really not. And one of the things I want everybody to take away from this is this business should be simple. Okay. If you're successful, you're keeping it simple. If you're struggling, you're probably making it more complicated than it needs to be. So I'm not going to say this is easy. It wasn't easy for me. I hated the phone, right? But you know what? I did the things I had to do. We all have to do them. So really the theme tonight's going to be really around the basics. Like, what is it I have to do to make sure that I don't fail, right? And if you don't fail, you're on your way to success, okay? And this is really simple. And I know there's brand new people on here, and there's people been around a long time. The folks that have been around here a long time, this is a reminder to keep people focused on the things they have to do. you have to have enough, and this is going to be really, it's not much more complicated than this. You got to have enough sales activity to sell enough insurance, to make enough money, to stay in business so that you can get good at this, right? Nobody's good at it right out of the gate. Edward, you were a lot better at it sooner than I was. I can tell you that right now. Took me 8 or 9 years when I say 8 or 9 years, at the 8 or 9 year, probably even maybe 10-year mark, when I woke up, I know what I needed to do, right? I was doing a lot of things I needed to do, but I wasn't conscious of the things I needed to do. But I hit that about 10-year mark. It was like, all right, I know what I need to do, right? So a couple of things I will tell you that you really want to develop in yourself. A sense of urgency is really important, right? Because wasted time is wasted opportunity, wasted money. Okay. So I want everybody to think about just a few things. Especially if you're brand new, and if you're not brand new and you've been here a while, but you're not getting the results you want, I want you to focus just on a couple things. Make a 90-day commitment, just a 90-day commitment to doing what I'm going to say. And then look back at that after that 90 days and see what happened. Are you further along than you were 90 days before? I guarantee if you do what I say, you will be. If you've been here and you started doing, you get back to the basics and you really start revving the motor and doing what needs to happen, reflect back on those 90 days as opposed to some other periods of time. One of the things that I've always done is I always tracked when I was in the field, I always tracked appointments, sales, all that stuff. I tracked it for a reason. And that was, I did an annual review of myself and every agent I worked with. I did an annual review. And, there was some patterns in there I noticed. Okay. And the patterns I noticed is, okay, had a crappy January, had a really good February, had an okay March, had a fantastic April, had an okay May, great June, great July, bad August, and I looked at it and I was like, what did I do in those months I did really well as opposed to the months I did bad? And without exception, I've never seen an exception to this, with the occasional fluky thing. Somebody writes a $100,000 case or something, those do happen. Those are the outliers, and that's rarefied air there. But let's just pull that out of the equation because it's not worth it factoring in. It's real money sometimes, but can't count on those. Every one of those good months I had, I just flat out saw more people, right? The bad months, I saw less people. So what I'm getting at here is, by the time we got off this Zoom call, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And then I'm going to suggest you do it. Because you know what? Here's the thing. 5 years from now is going to be 5 years from now, and it's going to happen whether you make any changes or you don't. Are you going to be where you want to be in 5 years as opposed to today? Because it's coming one way or the other. And if you're not satisfied, you want something different for you and your family, then make a decision. Just make a 90-day commitment and do the work. It's not going to be, I would never tell anybody to do something that's superhuman or like it takes 100 hours of work in a week. It doesn't. It won't. But you got to put in you have to be diligent about putting in the work to get the activity you need, and you got to be consistent. Okay. One thing that I'm a human being, right? We want stability. We want to know that, things are going to be okay. You're in charge of that here in this business. Okay. And it's the work you put in, and more importantly, the intentional work that will lead to the results. The results will become consistent. And what will happen is your confidence and your belief will set in. Because what happens to most of us is we come into this business and we operate on faith, right? My faith is Brian Delaney told me this is what I needed to do, and I have faith that what Brian says is true, right? And then it starts to not happen because Brian's not watching over my shoulder at my every move, and I'm not doing the things I need to do to be successful. And now my faith starts to falter, and I start to lose my faith. I have no belief in it. Whereas Griff, your agent that is doing 100,000 in production, you think that person has belief? I guarantee you that person has belief. That person's faith turned into belief, right? Well, what's really important, the reason consistency is so important is that when you know, okay, I did what I needed to do, I did everything, you can't control the results, right? Some weeks you have 12 appointments, you write 12 deals. Some weeks you have 12 appointments, you write 1 or 2, right? Don't worry about that. Just put in the effort. I mean, look, have you ever, if you work out and you're doing everything right, and you really, Brian, I know you've been on a real fitness kick. You do everything right, and you're getting great results, and you're really pushing hard. You like perfect diet, exercise is perfect, no cheating, everything. And then one day you step on the scales and you're 3 pounds heavier, and you're like, "What? That's not the way this is supposed to work," right? It's just the way. That's just part of the human organism, right? Is yeah. Some days you can't. I don't worry about that, right? It'll all work itself out. So let me get to some nuts and bolts of this. So if you want to succeed here, the first thing you need to do is avoid failure. How do you avoid failure? Okay. You avoid failure by writing enough business so that you're here long enough to learn this business and get good at it. Okay. I know this business like the back of my hand. I've been doing it. I'm in my 37th year, I believe, right? 36, 37 years, something like that. I lose track. Well, I know it like the back of my hand. Well, that doesn't mean I don't get off track. Sometimes I got to think, oh man, I made a rookie mistake. Everybody does that kind of thing. It happens, don't worry about that. So you need to have enough activity to have enough appointments, to have enough prospecting and phone calls and all that stuff, to have enough appointments, to write enough insurance, to stay here long enough to learn this and get good at it. Okay. All the rest, everything else, product knowledge, sales training, don't worry about that. You'll learn that, right? You'll learn that stuff, and you'll figure it out. But if you're not here, you won't. Okay. So there's some planning involved. All right. I need to have, I think, a bare minimum of 10 appointments a week. You got to see 10 people. And some weeks your prospecting is going to be really smooth and easy. And some weeks you're just going to have to grind until you get it done. Right? Now, I'm not telling you to do what I did, but I'll tell you what I did is I had my calling time scheduled because I hated the phone. Right? And I didn't get distracted. 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, I worked the phones until usually about noon to have enough appointments. And that got the job done about 90% of the time. Okay. Then I had a little trick up my sleeve, a little mental trick for myself. I'd be on the phone, and anybody's been doing this long enough to know is that, man, back then we were face to face. I'd be on the phone with somebody and I'm like, man, if I was in front of this person right now, it's a done deal. It's a sale. Okay. So you know what I'd do? I'd say, well, I'm going to be in your neighborhood a little bit. And I was always dressed to go on appointments. I'm going to be in your neighborhood a little later. And I would usually set 1 or 2 or 3 appointments that Saturday afternoon, and I'd go out and write a few deals. Well, now my weeks was Monday through Friday for selling. Well, guess what? And then I condensed that. I started realizing, man, I'm a lot better in the field when I've got like 6 or 8 appointments a day. Get on a roll, you get really good, when you're seeing that many people. And I figured out that it was a lot easier for me to just pack it into a few days. So I would make a few sales on Saturday. Man, I started my week not at 0, but with a couple sales. And that was a mental boost for me. It was a confidence builder, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of knowing yourself and understanding your psyche, so that whatever mind games you need to play with yourself to get you through, what you don't like, do whatever you got to do, right? But I would set my calling time in blocks. If I didn't get it done by Saturday, I did it on Sunday night. Now that took away time from my daughter, because that's usually when I spent most of my time with my daughter, was on Sunday nights. We watched The Simpsons every Sunday night, and that was a bummer for me. But if I had to do it, and here's the reason I called on Saturday. This is the reason I called on Saturday mornings and Sunday nights. That's when people are home and answer the phone, right? So that was part being smart and being disciplined. Just I had to be disciplined with the phone, right? when you're in front of somebody, you're on the phone, however you're selling your deals, you got a lot. When you got time to with more time with somebody, you don't need to be as disciplined. But when you have a very short window on the phone, right? And so what I'm getting at here is my goal was 18 appointments a week. If I had 18 appointments a week, I would see usually between 12 and 15 people, and I would hit my number every week. Some weeks were way better than others, and some weeks were just scrimping by the bare minimum that I wanted. I wasn't worried about that. The averages and the numbers, they work themselves out. And the longer you do this, the better you get. Okay. So what I'm getting at, keep it really simple, is you have to have enough activity to sell enough insurance. You have to do that. Like, that is a fundamental, like, law of nature in our business. You cannot get around that. Okay. You just can't get around it. And we got to start instilling this in folks to help them understand, because nobody comes here to fail. Some people are going to fail because they just not willing to put in the work, or they just don't like this. I'm talking about everybody else, right? They don't understand this. It's like, oh, I've got to go through this sales module, and I got to go through this training, and I got to do, and they feel like they're making progress, or they're doing work. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Fit that in between appointments. Fit that in between sales. When the very first appointment when I went in the field, I knew nothing. It lasted like 3 hours and 45 minutes. These people couldn't wait to get me out of their house. They probably bought from me just to get me out of there. But I learned literally on the fly, right? And then I started learning from the people around me. You know, the little things, the little things that do make a difference, but they don't make the big difference. The bulk of what needs to be done is that sales activity. You have to have that. There's no way around it. So if you want an insurance policy for not failing here, it's write $5,000 a week. You write $5,000 a week, you're going to be around here, and you're going to learn. You're going to get better and better and better and better, and you're going to pass that on to other people who deserve the same opportunity, and you're going to help a whole bunch of families to secure their family's future. And, you know, I don't think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think it's really simple. Make a 90-day commitment to put in whatever effort necessary, depending on the lead types you're working, that you get 10 appointments a week, minimum. Whatever you got to do to make that happen. Now, we had Lee Jedlicka on the recent national call. And, you know, he's had over 10,000 a week for like 237 weeks in a row, right? And it's like, how could somebody have over 10,000 a week, 237 weeks in a row? Well, I can tell you one thing, he's obviously very consistent in his effort. You do not need to put superhuman effort. You know, that won't last. Like, nobody can work that hard for forever, right? There's a point where it's like, this is too much work. You don't have to. That's the best thing. So I would put in the consistent effort. Be consistent, okay? And it'll get easier and easier and easier. Now you talk to Lee, it's like, yeah, this is really easy. That's easy. 10,000 a week's easy, right? Well, it's just because he understands I don't need to kill myself to do that. Some weeks are harder than others. Some weeks the phone's a little bit less friendly. And I'd like to hear from Brian and Griff and Edward, some of your and Brad, some of your comments around this, because everybody's hearing me say this, and it's like, well, it's easy for you to say. Well, it wasn't easy 30 years ago, right? Although back before Symmetry, you know, we had it easier. We had to do paper applications, and we had to mail them to the home office, and we had to
Y'all still use the fax machine, right?
Yeah, I had to wait. Well, that was like a big upgrade. The fax machine was like, oh man, now we can fax them. We don't have to mail them, you know. But I want to hear from you guys on this too, because I'm doing a lot of talking here, and we've all been through this. You see, everybody on the phone. I have been on, I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of appointments. You know, Brad and I got on a phone call. It was Matt and I got on a phone call with a client he had years ago. Okay. Very wealthy client. And they're like, can you help us out? We don't know what to do with this guy. Okay. We're just not sure what to do. So I said, well, yeah, I'd be happy to get on the phone. I got on the phone, and when we got off the phone, Matt and Brad called me and they're like, so that was a trip. And I'm like, what do you mean? They go, well, first of all, you didn't say much. You just asked a bunch of questions, right? I said, well, yeah, because I didn't know what the guy's problem was. Okay. And until I understand the problem, then how am I going to solve the problem and help them? And then they said, the other thing you did is you kept it so simple a fourth grader could have understood that. I go, well, we have to do that, right? We got to keep it simple, right? And what I'm getting at, the theme of that particular call is here I'm talking to a very, very wealthy client. Keep it really, really simple. Listen more than I talk. And understand what that person's trying to do. And if you're leading people, one of the most important things you can do is really understand their goals and objectives. Okay? Because when you're a leader, it's not about you, it's about the other people. It's about helping other people get what they want for their family. And then holding them accountable to their own goals and what they're trying to achieve. Right? Same with the client. It's not about us, it's about the client. What keeps you up at night? What worries you? Well, I want to make sure if I die, my family's taken care of. So, okay, I want to make sure I understand it, where you want to make sure if something happens to you, no matter what, your family's not going to be destitute, figuring out how to pay the bills. That's right. At that point, the sale's done, right? The sale's done. When you're leading people, and it's like, I want to understand what you're trying to do, why you're here. What are your hopes and dreams? And who's it for? Is it because you want a Ferrari? That kind of dissipates. Or is it because you want your family to be secure? You want, better for your family and yourself? You maybe it is purely financial for yourself. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't judge people's motivations. I can just say, generally speaking, people are more motivated to do for others than they are to do for themselves, right? But what's funny is when you're new, you got to be selfish a little bit and you got to take care of yourself. It's the old saying in the plane. The reason you put your oxygen mask on first is so that you're alive to help other people get theirs on, right? So you got to take care of yourself. You got to be able to pay your bills. You got to write enough business. What happens in that's kind of magical, though. You start to get good at this, and you can. I don't want to say teach other people to do it, but you can remind them on why they're doing it, right? Keep their head in the game for the right reasons. So, some of what I've said, Edward, I'd like you to maybe reflect on a little bit because you've done all this. Like, there isn't anything that anybody on this phone call is going to do that you haven't done 1,000 times or more, right? Same with Brian, same with Griff, same with Brad.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason we sit on these calls and have such conviction and belief is we've done it.
Yeah.
We've been where you are. I've been down and I've been up, right? The way to avoid down is be consistent and put in the work that's necessary to make sure the downs are not quite as down. Right?
Yeah. And Brian, I mean, to what you're saying as well, just because a lot of people think that they're going to sit on one of these calls and we're going to teach them something that they don't already know, right? Because a lot of people will hear it and they're like, well, like, I know that, but how? Well, that's what we've all been empowered by you and others who, as an example, they went out and did it. And you figure out like how you're going to actually go do it. Like, I wish I could say I taught my son how to ride a bicycle. I didn't teach my son how to ride a bicycle, right? I put my son on the bike. I kind of held it in the back. I showed him by demonstrating like, okay, here's how you do it. But like his brain figured that out as he was trying to ride a bike. And along the way, like he fell a couple times. We got some scrapes and there's some scars that are probably gonna be lifelong, unfortunately, that he has from when he learned how to ride a bike, right? Did I teach him how to ride a bike? No. I put him in a place where he could see how to do it. He had a bicycle, I put the helmet on him and the knee pads and stuff. I should have put some more bubble wrap and stuff in some other places, but we had to go, right? And he went out and just kept trying and kept just doing it, kept doing the activity over and now like I don't have to work. He knows how to ride a bike. Does that make sense? Does everybody
Yeah,
kind of like,
well,
because people
what you,
they want you to like do it for them or something, you know?
yeah, what you did is you showed him how to learn how to ride a bike, right? And the funny thing is, like the story I told to Griff, when Griff's like, "Nope, can't do this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can. I seen you ski all day. You can definitely do this." Well, nope. What it was scary because it was visually intimidating, big cliff with rocks on either side, about 12 feet wide. And I say steep, I mean steep. And Griff said groomed. It wasn't groomed. It was raw snow, right? And I'm like, nope, Griff's going first. You're going first. Nope. And he did it. The whole point was, man, it was, let me tell you what I wanted to do. I wanted to give Griff the gift of figuring out what he was capable of, right? I'm not a masochist. I didn't want him to get hurt or do anything he couldn't do. I knew he could do it. He just didn't know it. He didn't know he could do it, right? And the last thing I want to do is let him off the hook and steal that from him when he gets to the bottom and he feels like $1 million because he just overcame a big fear, right? Like that's something to be proud of. Courage is something like that is a quality developed, you know. And when you start to figure out, man, I can do this, and I can do this. And the last thing we want to do is steal people's own learning experience and development of character and courage by doing it for you. I'm telling you, the fastest way to learn this is get out and do it. Whether you think you know what you're doing or you don't. Number one, I can tell you this, you know a hell of a lot more than the client you're talking to. They don't know anything, okay? So you may be green, they're not even in the ground green, man. They don't know nothing. I had a veteran tell me that. You know, he's like, we're so worried about it. I'm like, man, I just don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm like, do you think the client knows that? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, they don't know that you don't know what you're doing. And they don't care, by the way. Like, you know, you'll figure it out, right? You're going to figure this out. The fastest way to figure this business out is to get in the middle of it. Get in the scrum, man. Get down and dirty and go to work. But the most important thing is you got to have enough appointments. You got to have enough sales activity to write enough business to stay here long enough to get good at this, right? All the other stuff, you're going to learn everything. Do you think I knew everything? I learned something every day still. And a lot of times I love being on calls like this because I get reminded of something really important where I'm like, man, I got to talk about that, right? Like that's really important. So, you know, after 37 years, I still don't know everything. I learn something every day. I really do. I mean, every day. I learn at least one little thing every day. Sometimes they're big things, you know, but most of it's all my knowledge and everything's from experience. You know, it's experience that, oh, I've been through that before. I know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Well, the first time I didn't, you know, none of us do.
And that's the activity that you're talking about. And like, as you develop that, like, so let's say someone's making that 9-day game plan, Brian. They get with their mentor after this, they come up with the basic game plan, right? They see the amount of activity that it takes, right? And they get a little, they get that feeling, back there, like, oh, I don't know if I can really do that. That's a lot. Like, and that I've seen, obviously takes people out of this industry. And you talked about it a little bit, but I would love for you to develop it a little bit more in the sense of, like, we know that they have to get on a schedule. We know that they have to do the activity, but they've tried it maybe before and it didn't take, and then they back off of it. You've seen people who have made like the commitment and get it done, and you've seen people who've like tried, failed, take a break, come back, and eventually figure it out. What can 550 people on this call, they all will say, I'm gonna make a 90-day commitment. What can they put in front of them that just they're gonna get it done like this time? Like, and I don't care how many times they tried it or did it before. I don't care if they've been here 2 days or 10 years, but they want to say, like, because 90 days from now is Thanksgiving, right? End of November, getting ready to go into Christmas, December, last month of the year to start off a new year. And if we have everyone make that 90-day commitment and they actually do it, they look back on it at the end of 90 days and it's done, and they're getting the results that you're talking about by having done that, the amount of activity, whatever it takes, as you said, man, life is going to be different. And that looks great now, but at day 15, day 40, day 37, like it gets tough. What is it that you've seen that keep people pushing through and that they've trained themselves to be able to push through that part of it? Because it is simple, right? As far as like what to do, actualizing it, that's where, of course, we see people have a problem. So how do they get through that problem? What advice would you give on that?
Well, don't measure yourself by a day or even a week, right? That's why 90 days is important, right? You're going to have, there's going to be ups and downs. Here's the other thing. I can assure you of this. If you, a lot of this is conditioning, right? If you put in the commitment, 90 days from now, you're going to find this is a lot easier than today. I don't care. Maybe it's taking yourself to the next level. Maybe you're maybe you're stuck, man. Maybe you're, maybe you're in a rut, and you say, okay, I'm gonna double up. I'm gonna make a goal of doubling up. Well, it's gonna take twice as much effort, right? Or I should say twice as much activity, not necessarily effort. Because I can tell you, I've looked at the numbers, and I don't understand the science behind this. Edward, you're the the brainiac here, but I can tell you this: if you have 10 appointments a week now and you bump it to 15, your results won't go up 150%. They'll go up like 180%. I'm not sure why it works that way. It just does, right? It just does. I've seen it through thousands of agents and experience of seeing how it happens with the agents. Maybe it's we don't have the level of desperation when we see 15 as opposed to 10. I don't know. Maybe it's a confidence thing, but more importantly, answer your question. A lot of it's conditioning, right? So it's kind of like this. If you decided I'm going to take up running, man, those first runs suck, right? And then what happens is you build up your conditioning, and then 90 days later, you're like, this isn't so bad. And there's a point in time, I never got there. I don't understand this. My wife loves to run. I never liked running. I'm just not built for it, But it does, right? That's the whole point. You get conditioned. It gets easier. It gets to the point where it's like, no big deal, right? Like I go to the gym every day. Well, I exercise every day. I go to the gym 3 days a week, and then I usually walk. That's it, right? That's what I commit, but I'm consistent every day. It's either the gym or I go for a 45-minute or an hour walk, but I do it every day, and I don't think about whether I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. I just do it, right? And now it's like people say, well, I had a friend ask me, they're like, okay, what about the days you don't feel like doing it? I go, that never happens. What do you mean never happens? Well, that's not a decision I make every day. If I had to make that decision every day, I probably wouldn't do it either, right? But I made a commitment, and that's what I'm going to do. It's just going to happen. And I can tell you what I don't like working out I don't like working out any more than anybody else. Like, people say, I love to train. I don't, right? But I love the way I feel when I leave the gym. I always feel better after exercising than before exercising. Okay. And I can tell you, your self-image is really important. So when you make a commitment and you do something, what happens is you begin to build a pride and confidence in yourself that you can do things that you didn't think you could, right? And that grows. It really does. It blossoms, and I can go through all kinds of examples on the folks on the phone who I've seen develop into leaders and into people, that they didn't understand what was possible. And then what happens is they started doing it and getting success. And then that belief came in, and it's like, wow. And then all of a sudden, well, what's next? And what more can I do? I've never been motivated by money. I've never been a money motivated person. I'm just not. I'm much more motivated by how far can we take things? Like I don't like limits, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a finite, point of results. But I'm more motivated by what's possible, right? And more importantly, there's nothing more gratifying when I leave this earth than it will be the thought that I helped other people find that. Like you showed your son how to ride a bike. The funny thing, Edward, is your son will look at those scars with great amount of love, because he'll remember that's when my dad taught me how to ride a bike, right? And so the point is that when I leave the earth, the idea that I could, help somebody find things in themselves that they didn't think were possible, whatever that is, like that's what motivates me. The experience I had with Griff was great. All I did was just encourage him to do what I knew he could do. He found the courage to do it, and then he had that sense of confidence and belief. All of us is like, man, I didn't think I could do it. I'm like, oh, I knew you could. Now you know you can, right? So that's what motivates me as a leader, as a person. One other thing I'll tell you real quick about just the philosophy I have. You might find this funny, but if somebody says, hey, I got this person that wants to talk to you, right? I'll take any call. I'll talk to anybody. I really will, because you don't know who you're talking to till you know who you're talking to, right? And I'm talking to a guy right now who's a partner in an insurance business, and this guy is connected in the government to a big degree. And I won't tell you which party, because it really doesn't matter. If one of the candidates gets elected, this guy's going to be named Secretary of the Navy, right? Well, why is that important? Well, because he's connected through government in a way where we might be able to get into the government employee market, the Navy credit union, these kinds of things. But what happened is I got a phone call and said, this guy wants to talk to you. I've been talking to him for a while, but I think you should talk to him. I talked to him today, as a matter of fact, and he's back in DC. But I'll talk to anybody, right? When I was in the field, I'd go talk to anybody that would talk to me, because I never knew who I was going to. I'll tell you one quick story, not to bore you with old war stories here. Tell you one quick story. So the way we used to do leads in our office with my crew was I mailed the mail out. Everybody pitched in for the cost of the mail. And then whatever leads came in went round robin, right? Well, this one lead, nobody wanted this one lead. And nobody wants this lead. And it was this 79-year-old guy, lived hour and a half away in the middle of nowhere. And everybody's like, I ain't going out there. And I'm like, well, I'll go on that lead. You know what that lead turned into? A $300,000 premium. The funnier part was, on my way out to the appointment, it was a Friday night. On my way out the door, I said to two agents that I was friends with, hey, ride along with me. I'll split the case with you. We'll grab dinner. I'll buy you dinner. No, I ain't going out there. No, I got better things to do. That's a true story. The guy, the client's name was Homer Belt. Okay. And he was very, very wealthy guy, owned apartments and storage facilities, which why I like those, Edward, right? Homer Belt.
Sure.
I never forgot Homer Belt. And so my point is, I'll talk to anybody, right? So what I'm getting at here is break this down into simplicity. You got to see enough people. You got to talk to a lot of people to sell insurance. So how many ever leads, whatever type of lead you need to get. And we all know that bonus leads are going to take a lot more work and if that's all you can work bonus leads. You're going to have to make more phone calls. That's okay. But you remember Jedlika said, well, I started on bonus leads, and then the A leads, there was just, I took fewer calls on A leads to get the appointments I need and blah, blah, blah. So, but then he had the money to buy the A leads. Strategize a little bit. That's where I'd put my thought and effort into, and then just get out there and start selling and watch what kind of magical things happen. We had the leadership conference in Asheville in the fall, and I was backstage. I think it was in the fall. I'm starting to lose track. Ever since COVID happened, I can't keep track of time. But I was backstage, and we had a panel of 4 or 5 agents that had all done 50,000 of production, I think, the previous month. So I was backstage with them, And I said, well, can I ask you, what was different last month than the month before the rest of the months? And they're like all looking at me like, they're like trying to, they're worried like I'm asking the question, they should know the answer. I said, I'll bet you the answer is that you just saw more people. And they go, oh yeah, I just saw a lot more people than normal, right? So this business is really simple. It's about seeing enough people to write enough business, to keep the lights on and keep the bills paid until you start to get good at this. You do not need to be good at this if you're new. You just got to be present and do the activity. You'll get good. You'll figure this out, right? You will find out the things you need to know, that they're additive. They're additive that'll just incrementally improve results. Whereas right now you need to focus on enough of the work to keep you in business till you can figure this out and get good at this. And if you're a leader, these are the things you need to be talking about, even to your seasoned agents, because I've seen seasoned agents get off track, and where it's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go get a job. Well, get a job. You're writing 30,000 a premium a month. I haven't written anything in the last 3 months. Well, get your ass back to work, man. They don't. People don't realize that the whole point of having a coach mentor is to get you back on track most of the time. It's not to teach you some secret to success. The secret to success in this business is a lot of diligent work in the most important areas. Right now, that's writing business. Okay, that will fix so many of your problems. Like a lot of things will just fall away. Financial stress, right? Your confidence will grow. Your belief in yourself will grow, right? Because you're going to be like, I can do this, right? Because it seems insurmountable when somebody looks at, like you, Edward, or Brian, or Brad, or Griff, right? It's like, well, I want to be where he is. Well, you know what? He started right where you are. And he just worked. This is a get-rich business, but it's a get-rich flow business. But it's a get-rich business.
If you don't quit.
If you don't quit. And that, like people ask me advice and I'm like, well, the only advice you need is don't quit and go to work. Go to work doing the work that's most important. And that is production.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this for the company's benefit. I'm saying this for every individual's benefit on this call. If you produce, you're going to figure this business out. You're going to get good at it. And then you're going to attract people and you're going to help them learn the same thing, the most basic stuff. Vince Lombardi, he kept things really basic, right? He thought if we can perfect one play that we're so good at, it can't be defended against, we're gonna win. And he did that, right? They got so good at the sweep, the Green Bay Packers, that even though the defenders knew they were going to run it, still couldn't defend the play, right? And he's arguably one of the best coaches, but I think the reason he's one of the best coaches is he kept things. The fundamentals are always the most important thing. Not the special teams plays and the crazy plays and all that. Yeah, it's come out every once in a while. Man, we got to get the basic stuff down.
So good, Pope. I remember just a couple of years ago, I was sitting in, I was at the gym with you, and always inspired to see people who have just like made fitness and fitness and just excellence in a lifestyle, right? And not just in their business at the expense of everything else, but as a whole person building a whole business. And I remember asking you, it's like, what's the secret? Like, what do you find to be one of the most important things? And you were sitting at the squat rack, same time that I was. And I don't know, do you remember what you said at the time? I can give you a prompt.
I think it was probably like, shut up and squat, Brian.
Yeah. It was do hard stuff and have people around you who are doing hard stuff. You just got to do the work and find other people who are willing to do the work and not talk about it, because you're exactly right. This business is only complicated when we're not doing the simple things consistently. This business is complicated to think about, simple to do, right? And you're just talking.
Well,
That's exactly what you're saying and demonstrating. I love that. That's so important to me.
and look, I think human nature is to seek comfort. Comfort your enemy, right? If you want to be successful, comfort your enemy. That doesn't mean you have to live in discomfort all the time, right? You need rest. You need to be, but look, I'm telling you, if you're uncomfortable, you're on the right track. Right now, see, I've learned to seek discomfort because that's how I grow. Right? Like, there's really not a lot in life that, on a personal note, let's take business out of this for a quick second. And this is kind of how we started this call with me telling the story about Griff, is, one of the fastest ways I think for self-development and confidence in yourself is take one of your big fears, something you're really scared to do, and just go do it. Now, be careful. Don't get dead or severely injured. But I mean, if that's public speaking, take a public speaking class in college. If that's heights, go find a rappelling class or go jump out of a plane or do something wild like that. And you know what happens is you start to learn. And because here's the thing, people tend to think like, oh, well, I'm not afraid of anything. Quite the opposite. Like, I'm a very fearful person, but I do it anyway. Right. So one of the reasons I have a very high level of confidence in myself is because no matter what happens, I know I'm going to do what I've set out to do. No matter how, and what's funny is that most of what we're afraid of never happens, or it's never nearly as bad as we think. But it's that building process of building confidence and courage and belief in yourself. It's done one brick at a time. And the little things I'm talking about, just getting out for the next 90 days and going to work, doing the things necessary, you're gonna grow as a person, and certainly as a business person. You're gonna start making more money, all the things you want to do, and you're gonna also realize this isn't nearly as hard as I thought. Maybe the first week or two, you're uncomfortable. And then what'll happen is you'll start to get your rhythm. You'll start to learn. And then what'll happen is 90 days from now, you look back and go, what was I so afraid of? What was I, because I'm going to say it again, and maybe we can finish the call this way, Edward, is the years ahead of you have in your life, they're going to go by one way or the other, whether you're successful and get what you want in life or you don't. The difference is decision. Now, decision, I learned the definition of decision from Tony Robbins. Decision is to cut off all their possibilities. Decide, and just do it in a way. There's a guy out here in California that he's run 540 miles straight, no sleep. Of course, he had to have food and water, but he was in a 60 minutes interview because it was like, how do you run 500 and some miles all straight? He says, well, what I do is I pick something in a distance, like a signpost or a tree, and I run to that. And then I pick out another signpost or a fence post, and I run to that. And then I pick another. And she goes, so you just pick little things all along the way? He goes, yeah. And that's how you run 500 some miles? He says, yeah, well, I mean, if I thought about it in terms of 500 miles, I think I just wouldn't even try. Right. And one quick last little thing on myself. I've been through some really, really hard training in the military. And I can tell you the difference between quitting and not quitting came down to literally my wristwatch. There were times it was so bad that I would say, I just got to get through the next hour. If I can get through the next hour, then we'll see what happens. And then I get through that hour. And I'm like, okay, 6 o'clock in the morning. Skip to 7. Skip to 7. Eventually, it eases up, right? I mean, these are the little mind tricks. I'm telling you, they work. They work. So you got 90 days ahead of you. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? You have a lot to gain and very little to lose.
Brian, I remember being on a call that I would put money on a lot of the wording that you used tonight was identical to that call 10 years ago. And it changed everything for me. It changed everything. I realized that I don't have the confidence in myself because I've created a reputation with myself of quitting too many times. And you had confidence because you rewrote that story for yourself. And I decided on a call just like this one that I wanted that confidence. I wanted that belief in myself. I wanted those results. And it gave me so much assurance and certainty in this process when you said stop focusing on the results and become emotionally attached to the activity and just making sure that you have that activity every single week. And don't worry about the results because they will come. The averages are there. It's a part of life. And I just want you to know that for me, your words carried so much weight, it changed my life. And I hope people take it that seriously for them because everyone on here, your life could change with 90 days. Because the hardest part of this business I've found is creating the new habits. That's the hardest part. The work isn't the hard part. It's the habits. It's changing what we do on a regular day-to-day basis. And I think it's John Maxwell that says, nothing in your life will change until you change something that you do daily. And that's what this challenge is all about. And I love that you said that. What do you have to lose? What do you have? Everything to gain, nothing to lose. Why not? So good.
I gotta say, I think we just heard. I feel like we just heard the creation of like the 2 days in the field. Did we just hear that? Like the 2 days in the field, that takes me back, right? Right in business, 2 days a week. And what I love, the simplicity of this business, right? Knowing you were out in the field, right, business, meeting with families. I wrote a policy behind Casey Watkins. He had written a piece of business and they were about to get a return of premium 15 years later, and I'm sitting there with, he's like, yeah, I'm getting my money back in like a year. I need another policy. But sounds great. And knowing that that's how it started, right? You all took a chance on this company by going out and starting to write that first policy. I know I was nervous in my first appointment. I didn't have any information I needed, right? I was like at the top of that ski slope, right? And Edward took a chance and he was like, I'm going to give this thing a shot. Then I took a chance and now I'm able to, because of all the efforts and all the risks that were made, I'm able to now live the life that I want to live with 2 kids and give them the life that I wanted. When I first started here, that was not the life I had. It was me playing music, kind of being selfish, doing whatever I wanted to do. I wasn't really thinking about building a business. I was just selling policies and I was building because of the people around me were, right? I was surrounded by it. I wasn't doing it really for myself. I couldn't really catch the vision that well when I first started here. And I'm humble enough to be able to say that, right? But now it's very different, right? Because I took that chance. I started to build. And one thing I didn't know about building that everybody needs to keep their eyes open about, I had no idea how gratifying it was going to be to help somebody go out and make a living and actually know that I coached that person to a point where they're now like free of a job. They're able to like spend their time with their family. They're able to quit their other job and rekindle their relationship with their wife, or like coach their son's football team when they weren't able to before, or like spend that time to know that I had something to do with that. If you don't have it down, if you've never done that for somebody, do it. All right. Do it once and just see how you feel. If you're like, I don't like this sucks. Well, at least you tried, but it might be one of the most gratifying things you ever did. And I love how we're just coming back to that, the idea of the basics, right? This business, people are getting caught in the minutia, right? There's all these things going on. HQ is huge, right? Switchboard, all these cool things. And these tools are great, but the fundamentals of this business are not going to change. We help families, we write business. That's what we do. And guess what? We need to call our leads. Switch some systems not just going to do it for you. We got to call our people. We got to call these people, right? You get a lead, they need a phone call. Girl on my team, Sarah Bailey, actually put 2 leads up on a board, and she said, family lead, like which one are you seeing? Right? And most people see leads. They see this as a job. And I just think you need to look past that. Man, Pope, you're the man, dude. You've changed my life. I cannot thank you enough. I really appreciate this call.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that, Grip, but just like Edward, I didn't change your life. You changed your life. You did it. I didn't do it, man. I would never take credit for something you did, because what you did is incredible. And everybody on here is so capable of doing incredible things that just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And it starts small. Do you think that I envisioned this when I got out of the Army and just wanted to work in the air conditioning? You know, no, I just wanted to pay my bills. And then what happens? I started getting good at it, and I started teaching other people, and pretty soon I started getting paid to do that. And then it was just like, you know, it kind of grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. But you know, honestly, I mean, what I'm talking about right now is the same thing. The people that showed me how, you know, how to get what I wanted for myself told me what to do. Right? It's the same thing. It hasn't changed because people don't change. The needs of our clients and our customers and families don't change. Right? They need what we do. But get out there and do this for yourself and your family. Commit to 90 days. Like I said, what do you got to lose? Do the work, see what happens, reflect, and say, yeah, you know what? I'm a lot better than I was 90 days ago. You know, and this is getting easier. Like every week that goes by, it's getting easier, and it will. And it'll get to that point where you're like, I got this. Like, I understand this. And you're conditioned to the point where it's not uncomfortable anymore. It's really easy, you know. And the thing is, I think part of the reason that it gets easier is that you loosen up and you don't think the families we're helping feel that, right? Just a conversation. I'm here to help you. Brian, I don't like, you know, tell me what worries you. Tell me what keeps you up at night so that I can understand how to help you get what you're looking for, right? So you can't sleep at night. You're not worried about your family if something happens to you, right? Like I know I'm simplifying it, but I kept things really quite that just pretty much that simple when I was talking to people. Because it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what they think and what they want. Sometimes they need our help to figure that out, you know, and they need a reminder. But I'm just telling you, man, you want to make this, you want life to be better and easier, and all the things that you hoping and dreaming of. Make a 90-day commitment, reflect back, see what happened, and then set the next goal. Make the next commitment.
I love that, Pope. I just want to I just want to stomp on what Griff said because it's so important, and a lot of people don't know the impact of what we do and why we get paid so well. Right now, every single week, the Pritchett Agency as a whole puts in place a close to $100 million of death benefit. $100 million in death benefit for the families we serve. Might be 75 some weeks. It might be higher than that other weeks. That's our job. That's our job. And I don't think Edward will be satisfied until that's true about my agency, until that's true about Brad's agency, until that's true about Griff's agency, until that's true about Preston Sembler's agency, until that's true about Kip Boy's agency, Ike Munella's agency, Gus Villagrand's agency. I don't think he's going to be satisfied until that's true about every single person who wants it and is willing to work for it. But a decision made in our mind and a commitment made in our heart still means nothing unless there's action represented in the world. It means absolutely nothing until it's action represented in this world. And the action represented in this world, and the one thing that I'll say, gratitude is action. Gratitude is action. And part of my gratitude for everything that Brian, Brandon, and Casey and Meredith have done to grow this company, part of my gratitude for everything that Edward Pritchett did to know the way, to go the way, and to show the way, is bringing as many people to the Symmetry National Conference as possible and seeing who is serious, who has made a decision in their mind, a commitment in their heart, and they're willing to take action with their hands and feet in order to become the best version of themselves that they can become. And we're not going to steal your struggle because we're not going to steal your success. We're going to give you the opportunity to have the very same opportunity that Brian Pope got, that Edward got, that Brad Smith got, that Griff Martin got, that I got, that you got. We want it because there were so many people who said I, and we just need more of those people who are ready and willing to do the work to sign up for conference. So, Pope, thank you so much for your time. And Edward, appreciate you.
The last thing I'll say, Edward, you can wrap it up, is this. I told the story about Griff for a reason, right? Is that we're standing on top of this scary mountain, middle of nowhere, worn out from a whole day, go to the gnarliest run of the day. And I mean, I'm telling you, it was hairy. It really was. It was hairy. And I knew Griff could do it. Griff didn't know until he was at the bottom. So here's the thing: if you're not sure you can do this, do what we tell you to do for the next 90 days, and then you'll know you can. We know you can. Now it's time for you to learn that you can.
So thankful, Brian, for you even just reaching out. I mean, because you called me, said, "Hey, what can I do? What can I do for you? We're getting ready for this conference. I see your team. I see some of what's going on. What can I do to impact and to help others at least see the way?" Like that's all we're called to do as leaders, is to be able to show what's possible. And as Brian said, like, we can show you the dream, but like, you have to take the action. And the number one thing that everybody on this, I mean, again, everybody who's on this call right now, we got 90 days. That 90 days can start now. Like, you don't have to wait till, I said September, October, November. You don't have to wait till September. It's August 22nd. You can start your 90 days on August 23rd, right? You pick up that phone, you call your mentor, you say, what do I need to do for the next 90 days? And you make that commitment and you start going. And 20 days from now, anybody who starts the 90-day plan, 20 days from now, we're gonna see you in Denver, right? Like, you got part of that 90-day plan is, I'll see you in Denver. You thought this hour was good. How about you get 3 days of this? How about you get 3 days of this, so that when you get back, like, because there's those points along the way, like the guy who 550 miles, like, I don't even, like, I'm not I don't run either. Like, I don't do that. Like, I'll run in a Spartan race, Delaney, but I'm not gonna just go out and run 500 miles.
The world is not ready for you and Pope to take up running full time. There will
Oh,
be
well, no,
typhoons,
well,
earthquakes, tidal waves.
I can make it easy. I don't run, but I'll tell you what, if you see me running, run.
You should run too. Exactly. I'm with you on that one. But like, for us, like, as we go on this 90 days, just like that guy he was like, I'm going to this next sign. I'm going to this next goalpost. I'm going to this next, like, you don't need to look 90 days down the road right now, as Brian was saying, right? How about you say, okay, I don't know how to get to conference, but I'm gonna get my conference ticket. I got 20 days. I have a game plan that Brian Pope just told me, if I do the activity, whatever it takes, figure out a way, I'm gonna get better. And part of my gonna get better is I'm gonna get some money and figure out how to be at conference, right? And that's 20 days away. And then when I go to conference, I'm gonna come out of that, I'm gonna have another it might be 15 days from there. There's something else that you're saying, I gotta get to here, right? And then you're gonna get to the end of that 90 days, and guys, you're gonna be on a new path. Like, that's what we're all looking for. We're all looking for, like, you're here on this call right now because the path that you're on is not what you, like, you didn't wake up and like, oh, I'm on the perfect path for my life right now. Let me just lay back in bed and have this coffee. I don't think any of us, like, we know there's better for us. There's better for our families. There's better for our future. There's better for our legacy. So for those of you who typed ME, those of you who said yes, like, if you're going to do that, don't be a liar. And not lying to us. I don't care if you lie to me. Don't lie to yourself. Don't keep lying, because, like, that's what we've been doing. That's why we're going in paths that we don't want to go, is because typically we just keep lying to ourselves until we don't trust ourselves anymore. Then we don't trust others. Then we wonder why our relationships fall apart. And life just sucks. So how about we just step into something different? How about we take the energy, the motivation, the passion, the belief, the faith that this gentleman he knows this industry, what he's saying is going to work for me. And then build the belief in yourself by doing it and seeing what the results are. So I'm just, again, so grateful for you, Brian, for taking the time here this evening. I'm excited for everybody who got this opportunity to hear this. Go do something with it. Go do something with it, because it will change not just something, it'll change everything. Like, life will things will taste better. I promise. It's weird. Like, it's weird. Like, I wondered why, Brian, people paid so much for certain wines. And you introduced me to a couple of things. I was like, huh, that does taste better. I understand why you pay more for that. Like, that's actually, like, I get it. I get it now. Like, have that option. have that as a choice, as opposed to just having to settle for what other people have left behind. With that, everybody, fantastic evening. Thank you, Brian. Let's just go out and do it. That's it. Let's just go do it. We'll talk
Right
to
on.
y'all.
Thanks,
you, guys.
everybody. See ya. Bye-bye.